Good afternoon from Yummy BTP. Wishing you all well, sending plenty of love your way as usual. Now, I'm doing this particular video in a different way, in a psychological way, right? Now, what I mean is I've been asked to break down what I call, and many describe as, stranger violence, which means when two people meet each other for the first time, you start fighting straight away, meaning it's on sight, right? And I'll break down a couple of the rivalries and give you a couple more facts to some of the stories that are out there that are right, some of them, and some I believe that some might not have known about or have got it wrong on certain dates and times, etc. And it's also remembering that some of you, when stories being told, just because you saw that bit for 10 minutes and that person for an hour, and this one in 78 and that one in 81 and that one in 86, for the fleeting moments you saw them, that wasn't the whole person's life. That wasn't every single story and battle that they had for the lives that they led up until they died, and some still alive now. You didn't spend every single minute of every day watching every single thing that that person we speak about in videos ever did. And even some of you question, oh yeah, but you always want, but we've been through it all before. I'm not going to go into that bit this morning, right? But it's time you knew or understand, some of you, that just because that bit might have happened or it didn't or whatever, that's not the only bit, yeah? Yeah, you could have won 6 more apart from that one there. So don't worry about all that. Don't get confused with one thing that you saw, because that's not the whole thing of the person's life, right? Now, the rivalry, we'll break down characters, right? And we've done it with stranger violence. It's out here. Often I say it's vibrations of what you're giving away. We'll get round to the hard men bit and why it works in the way that it works. But outside, you know, you meet people in the thing and you just don't like the way they carry themselves. And you say hate's a big word, really. As we get older, we understand that it's a bit more massive to say hate, really. Or is it we just dislike, we hardly know the person, but we don't like the way they carry themselves. Sometimes I wonder if it's a mirror of what we feel about ourselves when we see somebody and we dislike them straight away. It's a feature, not all the time. But it'd be interesting because there's parts of ourselves that we hate about ourselves. Let's get that right. And when someone acts in the same way that we might act, it might remind us of what we really feel about our deepest personal souls, about ourselves. It's quite possible. It's happened to me. It's happened to many other people. But there's also, with the hard men thing, and the fredmills, the new Geordie geezer, right? The paulsykes, right? Roy Shaw was involved in that freeway thing. You got one of these features wrong. Now, MILlS. Now, the funny one was that Clyde Broughton's right. He did witness 2 fights with Sykes and Freddie Mills, and Paul Sykes got the better of those fights. Freddie Mills could have a row, mate. Let's not get this thing twisted, but in reality, Paul Sykes is a better fighter than Freddie Mills, I believe. Now, the Largactal thing is definitely facts as well. It did happen, MILlS. It did, and he must have known. Freddie Mills is more a confusing character with his brain. The only thing that he comes across as is the only way of expressing himself would be by violence, right? So straight away, you can imagine Paul Sykes, Freddie Mills meeting, and they hate each other. Got a vibration. But remember, Paul Sykes is a hard man. A lot of hard men known for just fighting and that at all. Sometimes I wonder if it's all they know. And it's interesting that many go to their graves with how having explored or changed into, you know, other ways of receiving self-esteem apart from being known for fighting on hard men. You've got to be truthful about this. Some of those men that we talk about, they never really showed signs of change or the capacity to change into, you know, to hold restraint and hold self-control. Were there even other sides to their character that without the fighting, that they would have felt accepted socially? Paul Sykes could stand up in a bar and talk all day long, but, you know, they'll all be around him, but it's mainly the fighting thing. You take that away, would he have had the same, you know, brought in the same kind of stuff? But yeah, but the Largactal thing with Freddie Mills, but Freddie Mills was well aware that he was on the Largactal, so I checked that out. That is 100% true. And no, Paul Sykes couldn't fight back properly that day. I don't care what any of you said, he couldn't. But it doesn't go down as a win for Freddie MILlS because he cheated. But I suggest that in between the defeats to Paul Sykes, when they met again, because it was always going to be when they see each other on site, that it would go off. Freddie MILlS sees it now as an opportunity to get, maybe he knew that he wouldn't ever get a proper victory if Paul Sykes is in his best frame of mind. So no, we don't give that one to Freddie MILlS because really it's a liberty. But it's the kind of thing with his character shows that he would do. You know what I mean? And there's a few we met along the way that might do it that way when you're not quite ready. Come and get you in a way like that, if you get what I mean. But his character's a bit different, Freddie MILlS. He's not articulate. He doesn't come across like he can negotiate or he wants to. So the fight between Freddie MILlS and Roy Shaw, no, Freddie MILlS did not beat Roy Shaw. He didn't. He threw the first punch. Charlie Bronson was there. Pat Lemmerfee was there. And I listened to what they said. And they said he threw the first punch and Roy Shaw put him on the floor with 5. So I don't know where you lot got that story from, but I heard it and they were standing there. Whether you lot want to dispute it is all up to you, right? And why would it have been that the trilogy of them three, Sykes, MILlS, and on site, as soon as they ever met, they hated each other and it was on site. But yet when you talk about Lenny McLean build a bomb, Roy Shaw build a bomb, Paul Sykes build a bomb, witnessed by exchanges, and most of them that I witness of fleeting moments or whatever. Why could you reason it out and find the capacity to go, all right, I'm not really, you know what I mean, we'll leave it, you know, because, you know, you might have the slight upper hand in the exchanges, but it's not really a fight. But then that means then that you didn't dislike Build a Bomb then. Because you disliked Freddie MILlS, you disliked Roy Shaw, and he disliked you, and it was just on, your character just didn't match up or whatever. What would be the difference then? That with me, other people like me, when I hated someone on site, and the vibrations is that I know that you don't like me. But then I found that you didn't like me because you was thinking that I knew that I could see right through you, but I was trying to hide it. But you knew that I knew, so you disliked me for feeling what you was feeling and thinking what you was thinking. But I left it. The vibrations, because you want to be like that. So I'm playing cool and mine's going to be more premeditating, or leave it for a time and don't answer or don't rise to it. The capacity to wait, but also it could leave you festering as well, that you let one go and you're thinking, oh, and it eats you up inside. Is he going to try it again? And that kind of stuff. There's a lot of dynamics that go with that way of life. Now, why is it, I say to you, that all of them then found reasonable ground, the last ones that I've just mentioned there, that they wouldn't fight each other then? Is it because they didn't hate each other, or is it because the possibility of maybe defeat? But then they haven't been too bothered about defeat before, and a lot of times fighters fight, lose, and then want to fight again on another time. And why was it that even when certain of those fights finished on those days, Roy Shaw, Paul Sykes, Freddie MILlS, why is it then they didn't continue immediately afterwards? All right, they might have got moved, separated or whatever, or it got broken up and the loser had to take it on the chin. But then as soon as they saw each other again, it was back on. You know what I mean? So it never really leaves fighting men, and I don't believe that having the fighting thing alone and hard men alone is enough sometimes. Especially in later life, when you've got to have, you know, a few more skills to draw a little bit of self-esteem and confidence without having the fighting ability that you gain respect from all your lives. You see what I mean? You want to be accepted more. Some are very much left. Freddie MILlS reminded me of a character who was isolated, who didn't, you know, Paul Sykes had a little bit more. So Roy Shaw was very charismatic and very much liked. Like Albert Redding was similar as well. You've got to have these things. They had different parts of their character and they could articulate properly in front of crowds and all that, if you get what I mean. I never saw them as bullies as such. So just basically hard men. And I mean, the rivalry with Lenny McLean and Roy Shaw was, they hated each other. I mean, I believe Lenny McLean caught Roy Shaw at the right time in life, but you know, you're going to say, yeah, but yummy. I'm not getting into all that. I'll tell you, Billy Isaacs and a geezer called Gary Sayers, I think his name was. I read somewhere way back in the day, and Paul Tiernan talks about Billy Issac, as many people do in my circles, and I haven't done nothing on him yet. But Billy Issac hated Gary Sayers. I think Gary Sayers was a fighter of some kind. But they hated each other on sight. And as soon as they met again, it was, you know what I mean? Straight away, what the, you know what I mean? What's going on there? Is that what I say? Sony was famous for it all when he says, oh, I just don't like him. I mean, there's loads of people that I would say I didn't like on sight, but there was times like Alvin Black. I didn't like him at first, but then I did. You know what I mean? So sometimes it can be a bit premature, but what we was really talking about was a clarification of those rivalries and why I believe they take place, all right? So I'm going to be back up in a minute, in a little while, to do another video.